Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. I am Silver Tiger. Today I want to share what I have learned and what I think about a topic I got curious about and started researching. Why is everyone trying to build their own AI chip? Google, Amazon, Meta, Microsoft, OpenAI, even Tesla. Every single one of them is designing its own AI chips. Why would companies that make software, social networks, and cars suddenly decide to become semiconductor designers? And what does this mean for Nvidia, the company that has dominated this market for years? Let's start with the simplest answer: money. Nvidia's gross margins sit at around 75%. For every dollar a cloud provider spends on Nvidia hardware, roughly 75 cents is Nvidia's profit before operating costs. In the industry, people literally call this the Nvidia tax. When you are Amazon or Google and you are spending tens of billions of dollars a year on AI infrastructure, that tax becomes enormous. If you can design your own chip, even if you still pay a design partner like Broadcom or Marvel, you cut out a huge chunk of that margin. Some analysts estimate that a cloud provider controlling its own hardware can operate at dramatically lower cost per chip. Google's own numbers suggest its latest TPU systems come in at roughly 40% lower total cost of ownership compared to equivalent Nvidia systems. But money is only part of the story. Many people see chips as the oil of this century. There are two other reasons. First, supply security. For the past 3 years, the biggest constraint on AI progress has not been ideas or talent. It has been access to chips. Nobody wants their entire business to depend on one supplier's production schedule. Second, specialization. Nvidia's GPUs are general purpose. They can run any AI workload, and that flexibility is their strength. But if you are Meta, running billions of inference requests every day on very similar models, a custom chip built for exactly that workload can deliver several times better performance per watt. You trade flexibility for efficiency, and at hyperscale, efficiency wins. So where does everyone actually stand? Let me go through them one by one, because the differences are bigger than most people realize. Google is by far the most advanced. They started building TPUs, tensor processing units, 10 years ago, long before ChatGPT existed. Their 7th generation chip, called Ironwood, is now generally available, and independent analysts say it is roughly on par with Nvidia's Blackwell generation. Google is projecting over 4 million TPU shipments this year, and they have started selling TPU systems externally. Anthropic, the company behind Claude, signed a deal for up to 1 million TPUs. Google is not experimenting anymore. They have a real, competitive product. Amazon is second. Their Trainium chips are designed in-house by Annapurna Labs, and AWS has already deployed more than 1 million of them. Amazon's CEO calls it a multi-billion-dollar business, and both Anthropic and OpenAI are running serious workloads on Trainium. Amazon claims cost savings of 30 to 40% versus Nvidia for specific workloads. Their next-generation chip is already mostly reserved before it even ships. Then comes the middle tier. Microsoft has its Maya chips, but the program has struggled. Maya 200 was delayed by roughly 6 months, and it is only used internally for things like Copilot. Meta is in a similar position. Their MTIA chips are now entering production in their data centers, mainly for recommendation systems and inference. But Meta still buys enormous quantities of Nvidia and AMD hardware. OpenAI is the newest and maybe the most interesting player. They partnered with Broadcom on a 10-gigawatt custom chip program. And just a few weeks ago, they unveiled their first chip, called Jalapeno. It is an inference chip designed from scratch around large language models. And remarkably, they went from initial design to tape out in 9 months. partly using their own AI models to accelerate the chip design process. First deployments are targeted for the end of this year. And finally, Tesla. Tesla spent years and enormous resources building its Dojo supercomputer chip. And in August of last year, they shut the whole program down. The team was disbanded, key engineers left, and Elon Musk admitted that all paths converged to their next inference chip instead. Tesla now focuses on its AI-5 and AI-6 chips for cars and robots, backed by a $16.5 billion manufacturing deal with Samsung, while still relying on Nvidia for training. The lesson here is important. Designing competitive AI chips is brutally hard, and not everyone succeeds. Okay, so, with all of this competition, is Nvidia in trouble? In other words, has Nvidia already seen its peak? Let's look at the numbers first. Nvidia's most recent fiscal year brought in about $194 billion in data center revenue, up 68%. Their gross margin guidance is still around 75%. So far, there is zero evidence of margin pressure in the actual financials. How is that possible while competitors are multiplying? The answer is that the market is growing faster than Nvidia's share is shrinking. Nvidia's share of AI accelerators has come down from a peak of around 87% toward roughly 75 to 80%, and analysts expect it to keep drifting lower. But the total market is exploding, from around $200 billion toward projections of $500 billion and beyond. In a market growing that fast, you can lose share and still grow revenue enormously. That is exactly what is happening. But, and this is the part I find most important, the pressure is not evenly distributed. In training, where flexibility and raw ecosystem power matter most, Nvidia still holds over 90%. In inference, the everyday running of AI models, custom chips are attacking hard. Some analysts project Nvidia's share of the inference market could eventually fall from over 90% to somewhere between 20 and 30%. And here is the catch. Inference is where the long-term volume is. Training a model happens once. Serving it to hundreds of millions of users happens forever. So what protects Nvidia? 4 things. First, CUDA, its software ecosystem. Millions of developers, 15 years of tools and libraries. Moving off CUDA means rewriting your entire stack, and every custom chip locks you into a single cloud instead. Second, only the biggest companies can afford this game. A custom chip program costs billions and can fail, as Tesla's Dojo showed. Enterprises, governments, and smaller clouds will keep buying Nvidia. Third, Nvidia is adapting. Their NVLink fusion strategy lets custom chips connect into Nvidia's networking ecosystem. So even when customers build their own silicon, Nvidia still gets a piece. Fourth, Nvidia keeps the money circulating inside its own ecosystem. An investment commitment of up to $100 billion in OpenAI, up to $10 billion in Anthropic, stakes in cloud providers like Nebius and CoreWeave. The logic is simple. Nvidia invests in these companies, and these companies use much of that capital to buy Nvidia hardware. Nvidia becomes a partner of its biggest customers and ties the ecosystem to itself for the long run. Of course, there are critics. Some call this circular financing and argue it makes demand look stronger than it really is. But from a strategic point of view, the goal is clear. My personal take: I do not think Nvidia's margins collapse anytime soon. You only need to look around to see how strong the demand really is. Chips are no longer something discussed only by tech CEOs or a small group of enthusiasts. Chip supply and AI have become part of the agenda at the diplomacy table, and one of the bargaining points between governments. People like Elon Musk and Larry Ellison are building close relationships with Jensen Huang to secure more Nvidia chips faster. Countries like the United Arab Emirates are making serious efforts to get their hands on chips. And China, which America does not sell its most advanced chips to, is doing everything it can to reach Nvidia's best hardware. It is worth noting here that the Chinese are also trying to develop their own chips. Huawei's Ascend chips are leading that effort. Giants like Alibaba and Baidu are designing their own AI chips, and companies like Cambricon were founded for exactly this purpose. According to many experts, they are still behind Nvidia. But for them, building their own chips is not about diversity or price. It is a necessity. The demand wave is simply too strong. But I do think the peak margin era has a shelf life. As custom silicon matures over the next 2 to 3 years, especially in inference, Nvidia will face a choice between defending margins and defending share. Watch the inference numbers. That is where this battle will be decided. One view I came across while doing my research is that custom chips will never truly threaten Nvidia because AI models change too fast. A chip designed for today's architecture might be poorly suited for whatever comes next, while GPUs adapt to anything. If model architectures keep shifting rapidly, flexibility beats specialization, and the ASIC wave could underdeliver. It is a fair argument, and honestly, nobody knows yet which side is right. Before we finish, the usual reminder. Nothing in this video is financial or investment advice. I am just sharing my thoughts on things that interest me. Always do your own research. So what do you think? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. And until we meet again, stay happy.